Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. You might be asking yourself, whose voice is that? My name's Joe Kuzma. I'm back, folks, and I didn't really announce it, but I've been spending some time down with Mickey and friends at the Magic Kingdom. I was down at Disney. I was down in Florida. I was feeling much better than, now I'm back here, and it's just, I'll tell you what, man, I miss the pools, I miss the heat, and you may have been fearful that I totally handed this whole operation over to one Brian Roach, but I did not. And don't fear, he's here too for those of you who may have been concerned that I kicked him off of the ship. Brian, you said we had to get the band back together. I think we're going to play some sweet, sweet music today.
We are on a mission from God.
I told you, man. I'm feeling bad. You know what? It took me forever to watch Top Gun so I could use the Top Gun references. So now I've got to watch this movie and Blues Brothers, right?
You got to watch the Blues Brothers.
Jeez.
You are the Jake to my or I am the Jake to your Elwood.
I sure hope that means like sidekick, like Robin the Batman, or
well, they're brothers.
Oh, okay. Little brother, older brother.
Tall brother, short brother.
That works. It's like Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
I may be hitting some real old-time fans with that one. Younger kids are like, who? Who? Hardy? That's someone's name. Laurel? That's a name? So I know a little bit of the classic stuff, too, the classics. Hey, you know what? This might be the last time or the next to last time we get to mention this, because we got all sorts of big announcements coming in the next week or two here on our show. A lot of things changing, gears shifting everywhere, but I'd be remiss to not mention the official partner / sponsor for this specific episode, StubHub. And if you haven't gotten tickets already, I'm still scrambling here. I know you're scrambling too, but I'm trying to get the whole season lined up. I almost have it. No, folks, I'm still looking to go to Detroit. So I'm still, Disney hit the pocketbook. I'm not going to lie, but we've got some announcements that might help that for all of us and help some of you that are listening as well. But if you want to get a great deal on tickets, you got to go to steelcityunderground.com/tickets and click on the link there for StubHub. Take a night off from Nights In. So that one's out of the way. That's one. You know what else I wanted to talk about? Because I'm all over the place. I'm very talkative. I haven't been on this show. I haven't been able to speak my voice. I'm not going to let you speak yours either, Brian.
I understand.
If you do like listening to us, we've gotten some great comments. We've got some stuff that's coming up with the whole mailbag, the fan mail at steelcityunderground.com, some things that have been texted in. We have to cover a game. I think, I don't know, I'm discombobulated. I don't know what day it is. We're coming to you a day early here because we wanted you to be able to listen to us and get a little bit of a preview for the Indianapolis Colts. So we are going to cover that. But for those of you who have had some very kind things to say, we love, I'm not going to say just me, because everyone here at Steel City Underground, everybody from Brian to Eric to, we have two Zachs, a Mike, two Jims, a Tommy. There's all kind of people here. And then there's the ladies. There's Tina, there's Megan, there's Terry. Oh, God, Terry. I mentioned her last. She's going to kill me. We all like to see, we love the feedback. We love hearing, hey, we love the show and everything like that. But you know what helps even more? There are some people that are on the fence who haven't yet caught on to the movement here. So if you could go to your whatever favorite podcast application, software, wherever you listen to the show, be it iTunes, Google Play. YouTube doesn't really have a facility for leaving reviews, but if you're on something like that, we're on Spreaker. I think we're the only Steelers podcast that's available on iHeartRadio, and there's going to be some other things coming too, like I said, big announcements. But if you can, please, we really do appreciate it. Click there, click however many stars you think that we're worth, and leave a little blurb. if it's better than just great podcast with some exclamation points, it's going to show up on that page for iTunes or any other place like that. And then that helps us rank a little bit higher in the whole hierarchy of everything too. So I had to come on and beg people to go to the StubHub link, beg people to leave reviews, hear my somewhat crackling voice that's getting screwed up now that I'm no longer in the humid Florida weather. And now I'm going to leave it to you, Brian. You got any business you want to close out before we talk about Indianapolis?
No. I think you've covered everything.
Yeah, I guess it's so tough to talk about these preseason games because I'm actually at Heinz Field on Sunday for the one against the Atlanta Falcons, and it was just, I wanted to say miserable. I hate saying miserable because I love seeing my team play. I show up because I like seeing all the new players play. But it just wasn't a very pretty game, and you broke that down already. I mean, Josh Dobbs wasn't holding on to the ball. I wasn't too impressed with a whole lot what was going on, the defense and everything like that. But now there's the Indianapolis Colts, and their starters, their first team, almost kind of resembles like the third, fourth, and fifth stringers that we had playing against the Falcons. I mean, their offensive line's terrible. Their defense is terrible. Andrew Luck is still on the physically unable to perform or PUP list. I don't know what they're going to be bringing to Heinz Field on a Saturday. Once again, we're coming a couple days earlier, so you can get to hear this. Every time they come to Heinz Field, they don't even have to come to Heinz Field. They could stay there at Lucas Oil Stadium over in Indiana, and they still get pummeled. And it's not going to look too good because Big Ben and company, everybody's going to suit up for this one. This is the dress rehearsal.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's, of course, there will suit up. The first chance we're going to have to see AB, Martavis, and Ben on the field this preseason. In a game-like situation, and they have to be salivating about who they're facing, because the Colts are a dumpster fire. There's really no other way to put it. They are terrible. Against the Cowboys, they gave up 160 yards rushing and 316 yards passing, and they didn't do tremendously well against the Lions even. Who do we have to fear here? Scott Tolzien, Stephen Morris, who's gotten a lot of playing time at quarterback for them, or even Philip Walker. There's not a lot of weapons there. About the best thing I can say from their standpoint is they just pulled Malik Hooker, their draft pick from Ohio State, off of the PUP list and put him back on the roster. But that doesn't mean he's going to play this week.
No, it doesn't. And mentioning Tolzien, it's not looking too good for Andrew Luck or Scott Tolzien when all of a sudden the guy that was kind of fighting for the Browns starting job, you may remember one Brock Osweiler, is in trade talk. Can you imagine if the Colts make another trade with the Browns?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, the last one for the Trent Richardson thing, and it didn't work out for Cleveland because Cleveland, you talk about dumpster fire. I mean, it's like a dumpster volcano. I've been paying attention to the AFC North teams quite a bit, particularly Cleveland, of course, where I live, having my wife being a Browns fan. And you know what? They're looking better. I'm going to say that much. But they still look bad when it comes to the quarterback situation. But how bad is the Colts quarterback situation if they're even considering Osweiler, who has absolutely no timing whatsoever with his receivers in Cleveland, of which they have second guys that are second-year players at the wide receiver position outside of their top guys. Now, I'm talking about Cleveland a little bit, but that's just to kind of put into perspective like how bad the Colts must be feeling right now, that there's these rumors and trade talk and everything else that's going on out there for them to acquire Brock Osweiler. We're in week 3 of the preseason, and then there's a short week headed into next week. The Steelers play on Thursday. So, oh man, I can't imagine it. I mean, Tolzien didn't look all too bad last Thanksgiving, but I mean, they still have all the same problems with the offensive line, and you just never know, like when it comes to their health and their defense. They're trying to get younger, they're trying to get better. I don't know. It's very difficult to talk about these preseason games because you're going to have Ben out there maybe 2-3 possessions. Speaking of not participating, you talk about Malik Hooker on their end. On the Steelers' end, you have Landry Jones is still not participating. When he came in and played with some of the ones, I mean, let's put the Steelers put up 14 real quick, 2 possessions on the Saints in this same situation last year where they had I don't want to say all the killer bees, but they finally got some guys on the field. You still didn't have Martavis Bryant. Now we're going to get to see almost the full boat here, although Le'Veon Bell doesn't appear to be showing up until September 1st, the day after the game next week on the road at Carolina. So he sends out 9-1 as far as that. That's a week from Friday. So you're going to get to see probably, I don't know, Fitz Toussaint. You think he gets the start? Or you think they put James Conner out there? I mean, they still have Conner a little lower on this depth chart. They have Niall Davis behind Fitz, and then Terrell Watson moves up into there, and then you still have Trey Williams. I get both of these guys confused. I call them TW1 and TW2.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It looks like it's pretty much Toussaint, and it's going to be Conner. If Niall Davis doesn't get any carries in this game, I think his roster spot doesn't exist.
It'll be interesting to see. This is a good thing to pay attention to for this particular game is who gets snaps with the first team at running back. If it's Toussaint, that tells you a lot about where their thought process is regarding the depth chart and how much they're ready to hand over to James Conner. But if James Conner gets a good number of snaps with the first team offense in this game, I would expect that depth chart to start to change come the following week. Conner looked really good, as we said, against the JV. But we'll see if that translates over to getting some varsity snaps with the first team. And this is, to be fair, it's a mismatch regardless of who we have out there. It's a mismatch. If we have our starting offensive line playing, and I'm sure Pouncey's not playing, so we'll probably have Finney at center. I don't think Ramon is playing. I know he talked about how he had been in the concussion protocol. I think he's out, so maybe he'll play. But then, Big Al will play, and Gilbert may play, and DeCastro may play. But so, it's not quite as bad as it could be, but they should still be overmatching what Indianapolis is putting on the field. And it shouldn't be difficult for these guys to get some running lanes. So it'll be interesting to see who gets the bulk of those snaps is something to look for because it will give you some inclination. Tomlin holds his cards close to his vest, but it'll still give you some inclination of how they think this stacks up. Now, as far as Niall Davis goes, it's interesting. I know Dale Lally put out a 53-man roster prediction today, and he has them keeping 5 running backs. Now, those 5 would include Roosevelt Nix, Niall Davis, Toussaint, Conner, and Terrell Watson, the Nightmare. I don't see them keeping 5 running backs, and even if they do with this limited projection, as soon as Bell reports, one of them drops off. So it'll be interesting again to see how that plays out. Unless Niall Davis makes a statement sometime in these next 2 preseason games, either on special teams or in the backfield, I kind of agree with you. And I think that both of their free agent signings have a chance to not make this squad.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that with the wide receivers, too, because Justin Hunter's kind of been playing second fiddle, even though he was the camp darling. DeMarcus Ayers is the other of the 4 not participating as of August 22nd. So that was Pouncey, Landry Jones, Ayers, and, of course, Lev Bell. And I agree with everything you said when it comes to the running backs. If they really want to get an extended look at Conner, that's not going to be good for Niall Davis. And it's going to be even worse if Niall Davis is the only guy carrying the rock in week 4, because usually the guys holding the groceries right there are going to be bagging the groceries in about a week or so after. They don't cut down to 75 anymore. They're still at 90 throughout this whole time. So you don't see any of these men that are at the lower end of this spectrum here, like let's say, for example, offensive lineman Ethan Cooper or Kevon Milton, who's been playing an awful lot of snaps, even more than Cooper has. Matt Filer. I mean, now Filer and Finney, we assume will have a spot. Filer's been getting an extended look as well, and we'll see what happens with some of the tight ends because Jake McGee actually outsnapped Faison Odom, but Faison's listed ahead on the depth chart right now. And then you had Jesse James kind of mixing in there at all kind of odd times last week. So, but the wide receivers, you're going to see AB, we're going to finally see Martavis Bryant. You're going to see those two on the field at the same time. It's going to be very unfair. If you thought it was pretty bad, just them getting Ladarius Green back on Thanksgiving last year, you can imagine what this is going to be like just in a preseason game. It's going to be pitch and catch like they did against the Saints. It's going to be very similar. We're going to see if Sammy Coates gets some extended playing time. Juju Smith-Schuster apparently healthy, back at practice now. So Juju's going to be back out on the field also. And we're more than likely Ramon Foster not going to play. They're going to, if he has any kind of concussion symptoms, he's in that protocol. There's no reason to put him on the field. They're going to play it safe just like they have been with just about everyone else. So, I mean, that pretty much, I think, wraps it for the offense. You know, the guy we don't talk about enough, I don't think me and you talk about it at all. Do we take Eli Rogers for granted here? I mean, I think he's safe. I mean, he isn't playing a whole lot, but it's almost like he runs with the ones, like Rosie Nix. Runs with the ones, gets a few snaps, and then he's done for the day. I think he's safe.
I'm not going to disagree, but there's a concern of mine that he just hasn't had any conversation about himself pop up. He hasn't looked great in camp. He hasn't made his presence felt in games. He's kind of been the invisible man.
Whoa, wait.
Season.
Wait, he didn't show up in camp. He didn't stand out in camp. He's wearing a hard hat.
Well, okay. His hard hat stood out in camp. but as far as play, he hasn't made anybody start going, wow, Eli Rogers has been having a great camp. When the only thing guys can talk about you for is the fact that you have a hard hat with a tramp stamp on the back of it, that's not necessarily the best sign.
I thought it was a Deadpool sticker, but
it is. But it's a tramp stamp. It's a hard hat tramp stamp.
Okay, gotcha. Hey, I used to wear a hard hat. I used to love putting stuff on my hard hat. I got like a real neat Joe Kuzma, like on the front, done in a nice scripty font. But I forget which shop did it in the plant that I was at, but there was somebody there that you had to know a guy to get the fancy thing. Otherwise, you just had the generic like labeling with the standard font on there. So I was very proud of that. I could relate to Eli Rogers there. I'm pulling for him with the hard hat. But I mean, it's like we don't talk about him whatsoever. I don't know if he's locked into this slot thing or not. And Juju hasn't had enough time to just maybe sell us on that too. But before we jump over to that defense, it's like, I don't know what else Justin Hunter's going to have to do. I mean, if Dale Lawley's going to say 5 running backs, I think that's a little ridiculous. I think, unlike previous years, you always had like that hybrid guy, and we talked about that. It was Will Johnson and Rosie Nix, and then last year it was David Johnson and Rosie Nix. I think David Johnson is a default, whatever the word you want to use, number 2 or number 3 tight end there with Xavier Grimble and Jesse James. It's going to be 3 tight ends. It's not going to be like, well, we have kind of 3.5, and we're going to have this hybrid guy that's kind of a fullback or whatever. I think that one spot that shakes out there. I think it's 3 running backs, Rosie Nix, 3 tight ends, shakes out. You have an extra spot. That spot's going to go to a wide receiver. I think it has to. I don't know. I don't know if you trust necessarily that Martavis Bryant is ready to play 100% full game, full football shape. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. I don't know where Sammy Coates is at this point. We're going to have to see over these next 2 games. This is going to be a big game for Sammy Coates. He's going to have to it's like, show me something. So maybe Eli is safe. I don't know. Maybe that's just an indication they have to have more views of other people. DHB's been out there an awful lot. I think his position is in jeopardy. And Kobe Hamilton came in only because of the injury with Juju in that first game. He didn't see a whole lot of time against Atlanta either. And I think Kobe is a solid wide receiver. Ayers can't even get on the field. I feel bad because you know what? We talked to him, and when you get to know these guys, you don't want to say bad things, and you don't want to see their career essentially ended or them without a job, but he has to get on the field. At least he's practice squad eligible.
I agree with you. Ayers is going to the practice squad at this point, unless whatever nagging injuries he's been having keep him. They do a little tricky IR thing with him, but I don't think they're going to. I think that they can easily sneak him onto the practice squad. I think you're right. This is a big game for three guys: Juju Smith-Schuster, Sammy Coates, and Hunter. And I think for Juju, he's got to show he can stay on the field. Go out and play a couple quarters of consistent football and stay out on the field. I don't think he's in jeopardy. I just think it's important from the standpoint of where they see themselves using him to prove that he can stay on the field, because he's been dinged up 3 times already in this camp, and that's kept his playtime limited. Hunter, as you said, Hunter was doing everything right when they were playing without pads, but his up arrow has leveled off heavily since then. And while I think Ben is still enamored of the size and having that nice big target, I think he would love to have 3 6'3" plus guys out there. Hunter hasn't shown a whole lot. It was nice to see that one touchdown he got. It showed effort. He came back and caught a ball that wasn't thrown particularly well, and then he, got the touchdown. But, that again is against probably third-string guys who are not going to make that team in Atlanta. So, he needs to show something in this game. Kobe, as I said after the first game, Kobe's auditioning for his next team. He's not going to make this roster. I don't believe he's practice squad eligible, and I don't think he's going to be around. But it's those 3 guys. I think they end up keeping either 5 or 6, and I'm leaning towards 6 receivers. Obviously Sammy, obviously AB, obviously Martavis. I don't think Sammy's in jeopardy. I think Eli is safe. Juju is safe. That's 5 guys right there, and that means there's one more spot. Look, I love Darius Hayward-Bay as a player, as a leader, as a special teamer, but my God, the guy can't catch a cold.
And it doesn't matter who's throwing it either, because we've seen that in the preseason. Exactly.
And if he can't contribute anywhere other than special teams, it's going to be hard for the Steelers to keep him on the 53. And if it comes down to Justin Hunter or, Darius Hayward-Bay, which is what I really think it comes down to, Justin Hunter needs to show something, because he doesn't have that special teams repertoire in his back pocket the same way DHB does.
Yeah, and that kind of goes both ways too, where a lot of people are like, well, Darius Hayward-Bay, he plays special teams, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, so what? You need to be able to play whatever position you're intended to play, and you're a backup, and then you play special teams. If you can't provide anything other than special teams, face it, there's only 3 specialists. You have a kicker, a punter, and a long snapper. That's it. You may have a player who kind of flirts as a kick returner, but sometimes that player is also a wide receiver or a defensive back or a running back, and they provide some other value on the team. So moving ahead, we have a few names that didn't participate on defense, much in the same boat, if you will, of you got to get on the field. Senquez Golson, that's going to be one. Keon Adams, we're hearing some rumblings that he may be injured. He may be a candidate for maybe an injured reserve spot and stash for next year, especially since outside linebacker is going to be pretty thin if Debo doesn't play into his 40s. I wonder if he even plays this week, to be honest. He played in the preseason last year. He at least played 1 or 2 series. He has been absent thus far. So Adams, of course, you got Anthony Chickillo was getting an extended look last week. I think that bodes well for him. Arthur Moats came in a little bit earlier. That's because Debo wasn't out there. You had TJ Watt playing a whole lot of time as well. Who am I missing here? Let's see. Chick, Harrison, Debo, Watt. Bud. Oh, yeah. We're going to have to see Bud at some point here, too. So this will be interesting to see how much of a dress rehearsal this is. If they get Shazier out there, I think against an inferior offense run by Scott Tolzien, an offensive line that's not too sharp, they still have the receiving threats. They lost, they still have Jack Doyle as a tight end. So we're going to see, because Austin Hooper, and I'm trying to remember the other kid, I think he may have been a rookie with Atlanta. Now the name escapes me. I think it began with a G. They tore up the middle of that Steelers defense with Matakevich and Vince Williams last week. So they can't be too happy about that. And tight end had been a thorn. How long has it been? 3-4 years now. We don't want to continue seeing this on and on.
Yeah, look, I know we've talked about this, and people have been talking up Matakevich, and I think there is more upside there than we thought. The problem is, I think Matakevich needs a stellar partner. We thought Vince Williams was going to be that stellar partner, but Vince Williams looks like he's also a guy who needs that star guy next to him to help him offset some of the load, because they both have looked a little pedestrian when they were out there together. Through 2 preseason games, we haven't had much to say on the upside for either Matakevich or Vince Williams. Williams got manhandled by an offensive tackle when the Falcons scored their first touchdown on that run. He got badly burned by the tight end on one pass for a first down. He did have one nice pass breakup against a running back later in the game, but that was later in the game where you're now talking about, a lesser level of competition. So I'm becoming slightly concerned with our inside linebackers. If Ryan Shazier doesn't stay healthy and isn't on the field, that is feeling like an area that can be exposed, and it certainly has looked that way. It's possible we'll get Shazier on the field for limited time. I think the flip side of that is the defensive line did not look good in the early parts against Atlanta. And as soon as Hargrave went out with the supposed concussion that the team says he did have and he says he didn't have, once he went out, though, man, it wasn't the same. They didn't get the same push. They didn't have the same aggressiveness almost that they felt like they had against the Giants. And this is a game where they can get healthy quick. Because as we've said, the Colts offensive line is not just bad, it's god awful. And this is a game where if we don't see Hayward and Hargrave and Tuitt and Tyson Alualu and LT Walton and even some of the other guys, Johnny Maxey or whoever else may be out there doing some backup work, if they don't really make a statement in this game, that's not going to bode well, because this is about as weak of a competition as they're going to get. And they should dominate, and that may help the linebackers to be a little more free. And maybe they're getting stuck on blocks. It's really kind of hard to follow from TV, live, and even in reviewing the game. It's not always easy to see the coverage of who's not getting off blocks and whatnot. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And it'll also be interesting to see if Bud Dupree is the next guy in line to have a couple sacks. We had TJ and Arthur in the first game, then Chickillo in the second game.
Chickadillo.
Anthony Chickadillo in the second game. And it'll be interesting to see if it's Dupree in this game. It will also be nice if we finally get to see what our starting front looks like. Having, Bud out there, Tuitt out there, Hargrave out there, Hayward, and TJ, and see what we might have there, because that's going to help the entire. If those guys are able to get pressure consistently, contain the run consistently, that's going to do nothing. As Tomlin said, it's all part of the same thing. Coverage benefits when the pass rush is good. The pass rush benefits when coverage is good. It'll be fun to watch that. I'm looking forward to seeing Bud get on the field.
Yeah, and he's listed as a starter, as is Harrison. Now, Harrison's finally practicing as well. So, first full practice, he's just been kind of chilling with the trainer for all of training camp. He jumps in a couple drills here or there. Now he's suited up full pads, but probably still not anticipating having him play. I think they really, really, really want to try and get TJ Watt ingrained in this defense and get him up to speed as fast as humanly possible, which is just so bizarre to think about that before last year, you would never talk about a rookie playing on defense. I mean, I think we still have kind of a sour taste in our mouth, maybe from the Jarvis Jones experiment. So, I don't know. Harrison's still listed as a starter, whether he plays or not. I know he doesn't care. I just don't know that the reps are as important to him as they are to have TJ out there. So, it'd be nice to see what TJ and Bud do together. Some of the other guys that are just not out there yet. Cam Sutton and Mike Mitchell still not participating as well. And I'll tell you, the secondary looks really – I mean, a lot of people rag on Mike Mitchell, and then you see what it's like when he's not there. And I think the one we really need to look for is you have Robert Golden on this depth chart. I think Robert Golden could lose his spot on this depth chart to Jordan Dangerfield, who now he had an easy interception or two, but he's playing well on special teams. He's playing well overall, I think better than what Golden was playing. I don't know. I was big on Golden headed into last season because I liked what he had done during the 2015 season as an extra DB, and now all of a sudden it's like up and down again. I feel like it's always the same way with all of these guys. Ross Cockrell didn't have necessarily the best game during his last game. But I'm seeing that too when I'm watching some of the Browns and the Bengals and stuff like that too. So it's really hard to judge. You're just trying to see what these guys, how many snaps they're getting, and are they getting the practice? And a lot of this is very vanilla schemes and whatnot too. I don't think they're showing their full hand, so to speak, on defense, but it kind of helps with the outside linebackers because I think Chick and Moats now are no longer competing. If Adams is truly hurt, I think they both sneak in on this roster. They're going to get a little bit more playing time. We haven't seen Adams at all. So in 7th round draft pick, I mean, he's an easy candidate for a release, and maybe they bring him back and stash him away, or a practice squad or something of that nature, and just kind of groom him. Like I said, Chickalo and Moats in the final year of their contracts, as we've been talking about a lot recently. But yeah, the inside linebackers, we got to see what LJ Fort's got. Now, take a look on the other side of the field. This came up, and we haven't written about it yet. We may not write about it for a while, but one of the rumblings in Indy is that maybe Sean Spence, former Steeler, went over to Tennessee last season, now with Indianapolis. He knows the Steelers system. I don't know if he ends up being somebody that if there's rumblings there that he might be released, or that they could obtain him cheaply. I don't know. I don't know if you start looking elsewhere, because Steven Johnson's hurt again now, and this is what happened to him last year. You have Keith Kelsey, who hasn't really had any playing time. Matt Galambos, who's been actually quite a surprise, believe it or not. But, I mean, it's kind of scary looking behind Vince Williams and Ryan Shazier, and all you see is Matakevich. You may not even have Steven Johnson, and there's LJ Fort, and that's it. So I have the same concerns that you have. This is going to be an interesting game to see what all these guys do, see if they've learned, if they grow, if they're going to improve, because you can't just base it on one game, let alone one preseason game.
No, you really can't, and it's. The Sean Spence thing is intriguing simply because he knows this defense. But, you have to have some level of concern if he's going to be released by the Colts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's not a good sign on where he may be physically and skill set wise. I mean, you got to love the story of Sean Spence coming back from the severity of the injuries he had, but it's been a crapshoot how long he would be able to play, and how far he was going to be able to go after those really awful knee injury. But it is intriguing nonetheless, and I really think that there's a very good chance that the last two spots, or at least one of the last spots at inside linebacker, isn't yet on the team.
Oh, absolutely.
They're gonna look at what comes up when all of a sudden, over 1,000 players are released in a matter of a couple days. They're going to pick through that, and they're going to see if they can make improvements. And if they can, they will, because it is concerning, to say the least. You talked about Cam Sutton. I think there's a chance he might get back on the field this week, and we might get to see some Cam Sutton. I don't know for sure, but I thought I heard rumblings about that. I think you're right. I really think that there is a chance the Steelers are concerned that Keon Adams wouldn't slide to the practice squad. And if they have any of that concern, then it makes sense for them to put him on IR because of a surgery. I don't know if my sarcasm is coming through well or not. But, it's a way to stash a guy that you don't want to expose. And he has been dinged up. There is no question he has an injury. So if they can say, look, we're going to IR him for a year, let him rehab the injury. He can, I think, come to meetings and learn and go from there. That's not a horrible path for a 7th-round draft pick to come in next year when, as you said, we've got guys whose contracts are going to be up at the position that he plays. So, it gives him a better shot. And you got to feel for Senquez Golson at this point. It's clear to me at this point that his future is not here. He is not going to play in this game. It seems almost inconceivable he would play in the 4th preseason game. He's done nothing that indicates he's going to be back anytime soon. He is practice squad eligible, and it's unlikely anybody would take a shot at him. But if he can't even play on the practice squad, what are they going to do with him? Is he destined for another year of IR? And do the Steelers finally decide, you know what, we're just going to do an injury release with him? I don't know, but you can't help but feel bad. Now, on the flip side, that opens the door for Mike Hilton, Zach Adonia's and Zach Metkeler's wonder boy.
Yeah.
And that'll be a guy to pay attention to this week, too, because I know he got some practice time with the first team over the last couple of days. So if he gets varsity reps in this game, that will show that they really have some confidence. And I think that means he's got a real shot at staying on the 53, unless he's awful. But we'll see.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was headed to with the outside linebacker battle. Now there's 5 spots. There's 5 guys that are probably locked in, and that frees up a spot. Just as I was mentioning with the running backs and tight ends on offense, to free up a spot for wide receivers. I think it frees up a spot for corners, and there's not a whole lot of safety depth here as well. So if they have 4 safeties, not 5 safeties, I think one of these DBs, definitely they may be looking at keeping 6 here on this roster. And as far as the defensive line goes, too, I think they could throw Maxey back on the practice squad or something like that. They probably won't hold on to Dan McCullers. Dan McCullers has been hard-pressed for playing time. None of these other men that are playing here either. Christian Brown, Francis Colon, Levon Hooks, or Roy Fallon. Who am I missing? Christian Brown. I don't think I mentioned his name. None of these guys are getting any type of time. And of all of them, it's like, well, I think Hooks may have gotten hurt, but I mean, he's so far down the totem pole that nobody's even mentioning whether or not he was hurt. I couldn't find any information on him, nothing released whatsoever. So it is unfortunate for Golson, and I think we'll just kind of leave it at that heading into this game. So hopefully folks know who to look for and who to pay attention to, because we're all going to be salivating over AB's going to be out there, Big Ben's going to be out there, Bryant should be out there if his hamstring tweak or whatever isn't too serious when it comes to anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see what all of these guys do. But Brian, it was good. What do you want to say? Reconnecting with you. We need some new nicknames.
I'm telling you, Jake and Elwood.
Elwood.
If you watch Supernatural, we can be Sam and Dean.
I don't know about that one. Or Bruce and Dick, which is the names for Batman and Robin. That's their
I'm telling you, I'm not
identity.
being Dick.
Oh, okay. Are you sure? It fits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Out.
But anyway, we're almost moving away from PG as our show. So we're not swearing yet. And hopefully we won't be swearing anytime in the near future. We're not Cleveland fans. But folks, don't forget about those reviews. It would be very appreciative if you could go on. And even if we just get one or two, it means the world to us. So until next time, his name's Brian. My name's Joe. Be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.